Hi, it's Karen from Black Swan Journals, and I was hoping that you might want to craft along with me in my winter journal. And I'm working on decorating today. And I've got a little tree I painted and some decorative scissors that I plan on using, and some digitals that I printed out from the Graphics Fairy and fussy cut, some scrapbook paper, a stencil here from Tim Holtz with little snowflakes. I'm going to use some embossing paste with that. And here I've got some papers that my husband cleaned his brush on, and I'm going to use it with those dies there and do some die cutting with a little mini die cut machine. And over there is where I plan on putting one of the dies up in the corner. And that's a book page that I got in a thrift store. I like to go to thrift stores and get old books. And that's some scrapbook paper. And I have a video on how I constructed this book. If you're interested, I can link it in the description. I also have a cocktail napkin with this cute little chickadee that I thought I would also use and glue it down. I also have some book pages that I took out of an old book and of a quilt that looks so warm and cozy for winter. And then I also have a little piece of patterned paper pattern paper that I got in a Happy Mail, and thought I would use that too. And that little flower up top there, a little die cut, I found that in a box of a whole bunch of die cuts in a thrift store for $4, and I'm sure it was quite expensive when it was new, but that was a happy day. Here's my little mini die cut machine by Sizzix. It's so cute. It's really small. It's nice because you can keep it right next to you on your desk and just on the fly make a little die cut. But what isn't nice is if you want to do a larger die or a bunch of dies at once, it won't help you there. So, pros and cons to everything in life. And I had a couple of scrap papers there, scrapbook papers of roses that I plan to use. I absolutely love those. And some little mini alphabet stamps, wooden stamps. And here I'm just adding some oxide inks to the edges of that scrapbook paper that had a nice inspirational message on it. And I try to fill each of my days with things like that around me to read and prompt me. And if I'm not feeling that way naturally inside already, it helps you make a quick shift back to joy, back to happiness. So I love this owl, and I figure I'm going to make him a little bit darker and pop him out with some inks. I'm also going to add later on coming up some black ink, pigment ink, because I want to give it just a little bit more definition and pop off the page. And nothing does it better than black or a contrasting color, whatever a contrasting color would be for your situation. I put a little ink underneath him just to give him a shadow or a ground, and I glue him down. So for me, this is a journaling card or tag. It's a little unconventional. I do things unconventionally sometimes, other times very conventionally. I mix it up, have fun, do whatever you want. Have fun. That's what it's all about. It's why we're doing this, to have fun. So anyway, I just wanted to mention this isn't only a decoration for me, but also on the back I keep it blank and ink it up a little bit and make it colorful and coordinated in my spread, but I leave it blank for writing. So it's not your typical tag, but it is, not typical, but it is a tag. And don't be afraid to do anything you want. You don't have to watch other things and conform to that. It's great to watch, to learn. But then when you're doing it yourself, whatever your eyes light up and you gravitate toward, and it starts to make you happy, and that like happiness feeling come alive inside while you're crafting, well, do that. Choose that. Don't have the voice in the back that's saying, but she said do it like this. um that's great when you're learning, but don't ever be afraid to do anything that really makes you happy. So I don't normally see journaling cards like this, but I don't know. It made me happy and I have plenty of space to write on the back, so why not? So this owl becomes a little journaling tag for me, and I glue that really pretty soft pink. Kind of looks like, I don't know, an apple blossom or anemone, something like that. I glue that down just for some extra beauty. And right here on that die cut that I got in the thrift store, if you remember, it was been pre-cut by a company. It had some white that should have been like punched out, and it wasn't. So instead of cutting it out with an X-Acto knife, a quick fix to that is to take, well, don't care about it and just go with it and not be bothered by it. But if you want to perfect it a little bit, like I did, the quick fix would be to just take like a black paint or black Sharpie or something like that, a black Posca pen, anything like that, and just sort of put a little black over that white, and it disappears. So here I had a little hidden paper clip that I had made previously, and in some more modern looking scrap paper, and I decided to give it a little bit of ink, of the same inks that I'm working with here to keep continuity. And as I was doing it, I kind of thought, oh, I kind of liked the brightness of the paper the way it was before. So I learned that doing it. I think next time I might consider leaving it modern. So here I'm playing with some scraps that I had on my table, just maybe to give that little paper clip a little bit of extra. And I'm just sort of trying out or auditioning a few pieces and seeing what they might look like before I commit to it and glue it down. But if you do glue things down, don't worry about it. You can always peel it up, or you can glue over it if it's too late, or sometimes if it's dried down, it's still not too late. You can kind of gently rip it up and then glue something else over it. I did that the other day, in fact. On the first page of this spread, actually, on an envelope I made. So I end up going with the black one in the end. And the reason why I'm leaving all this in is just in case you're new, or if you're not new and you care about my process and why I chose what I chose. And in the end, it's all personal preference and what you like. But for me, I ended up liking the black for the contrast, because the page beneath it had a dark black trunk on the tree and a dark sort of gray stormy sky and other black accents. So I end up doing that. But for a minute, I chose this lighter one and just changed my mind and thought, no, I'm going to go with my first gut feeling that lit me up inside, and it was this darker one. So I decided to choose that one. And I'm going to try to put ink on it, and it's futile because the paper's so dark and my ink is lighter, it doesn't do a thing. So, if it makes you feel good, go ahead, but it didn't really show up at all. So here are those decorative scissors. And they used to sell these, like, I don't know, 10 years ago, all the time in like Michael's in the States. I live in New Hampshire. But I don't know. I don't see them around much anymore. I bet you could get them on like Facebook Marketplace really easy or for free, maybe. Also, they probably still sell them on Amazon all the time, but I don't see them in the craft stores when I go out shopping. But I've had these forever. They also make punches that you can line up and create the same effect, and they make dies as well. There's different ways. There's even rulers that tear edges. But there's my little journaling tag. And I didn't include the painting of the evergreen because it's the first time I've ever done it and it's not very professional. So it's just something I'm playing with and learning on my own and practicing and hoping to get better at. So, anyhow, I love to include these things in my journals. And now let's play with the cocktail napkin. And I love this little chickadee. And I don't want to include the maroonish red, so I'm going to rip around the little sort of hemlock or spruce, whatever kind of tree that is. I think it's looks like a balsam actually. I'm going to trace around the balsamy image with a wet paintbrush, and there's nothing on this brush but water. And it sort of helps rip napkins really easily in the place that you want to. So that's why I'm doing that. And then I tear around while it's still wet. My dogs are going for a walk with my husband. I don't know if you heard that. But anyway, I tear around and then I take some glue stick and paste all over the back and then smooth it down. Also, you probably know this, but if you're new, you do want to tear off all the layers of your napkins. And there's usually 3 layers, but sometimes there are 2, meaning you usually remove 2 layers and discard them. You could save them for future use in other projects, but for this use, you would discard them and or set them aside and use the 3rd layer, the image layer. Sometimes napkins only have 2 layers and you're only removing one and setting it aside. So in this case, I was really convinced it had 3 layers because I've rarely found one with only 2, but I just could not, no matter what I did, try to get another layer off. I tried tape. There's a trick where you can put tape on the sticky part, and then that will supposedly remove it. And it does. That trick does work normally. I tried wetting it. I tried wetting my finger. I tried just sort of rubbing them back and forth between my thumb and my index finger. And I just couldn't. So I thought, well, this must be my napkin that only has 2 layers. But when I go to glue it down, I can tell there definitely was another one on there. And the reason why is it's not transparent. And the reason why we do this with napkins and remove the edges, in case you're new, is because it becomes like washi tape, if you know what that is. It becomes transparent. So it's really cool. You can take an image and put it over another image, like maybe a florally background or newsprint or something, and you can see through the bottom, and it's really awesome. In this case, you can't really see my dyed paper that I made beneath it because there lo and behold was another layer that I just could not seem to get off and thought there was only 2. But yeah, there were 3. But that's okay. It still looks really pretty and it doesn't bother me. I'm just kind of taking note for next time. So here I decided I want to put a few snowflakes with this stencil and this embossing paste. And I usually mention that you can make your own embossing paste. You can also just use like household spackle or plaster, you might call it, like wall fill. And here is the book page that I got from, I think I don't know if it's vintage yet, but like an old Martha Stewart book I got at a thrift store for $2. Nice hardcover book. And I've gotten a lot of use out of this book, like made things from the book. And now I'm using it in this way. And I love that image. I absolutely love it. I love the colors. I love the idea of the warmth. I love the idea of wool. I'm a natural girl and I love natural fibers. I'm also a landscaper gardener, and I always tell my crew to wear wool when it's cold. Nothing else beats wool underneath, like warm other, out jackets, down jackets, but wool underneath for sure. So I don't know, I've got this like love affair with wool. So I've got this lovely piece of happy mail that is a piece of pattern paper, and it was wrapped up with some washi tape on there with those little like silhouette cameo images. And the tape ripped a little when I was opening the packaging, even though I was trying hard not to. But I still wanted to feature the tape to remind me and create a piece of ephemera here. And it's a memory for me to remember this person. And when I see it, it reminds me of this person and the happy mail that I received and how loved it made me feel and how happy the happy mail made me. So I ink it up a little, and then I had some scrap card stock that I wanted to give this pocket. I'm creating a pocket. I wanted to give it some stability. So I took that and glued it along the back. And then I decided I really wanted to be a floating pocket. And if you're new, that means, to me at least, you haven't committed and glued it or sewed it down anywhere yet. You can lift the pocket and remove it and place it anywhere you want in your journal or another journal, or gift it away to somebody in a happy mail. Reach out to each other. Reach out. Find a pen pal, or find a family member or someone maybe that's shut in your community, or in our area we call them nursing homes, and someone that maybe doesn't have family, and reach out and just make a little something and give it. So anyhow, or just do it for your own self, for your own pleasure. But if your stuff starts to pile up and you're thinking, what on earth am I going to do with all of this? I like to give it away just as random acts of kindness. I love to do that. So anyhow, the floating pocket, you can put it anywhere. And you can also decide to sew it down or glue it down if you so desire as you continue to use your journal. So don't be afraid to mix it up. Use magazines, there's really lovely magazines today too, with like really sort of like a matte print that aren't glossy. If you don't care for the shine of glossy, you can also put a thin layer of gesso over it and tone down gloss. You can also take like a little bit of like a sanding paper, or those little foam sanding pads you can get at the hardware store, and just give it the lightest touch and just remove that gloss. You can do that as well. But I always wonder about, creating dust and breathing stuff like that in. And I'm no health official or doctor, just speaking my mind and sharing it with you, just in case it matters to you. But if it doesn't, that's awesome. So yeah, those are some things you can do, or just go with the glare. Other people don't mind it at all. So you can use magazines, you can use books, you can use digitals, you can find free copyright free digitals online. You can pay makers and pay them their well-deserved fee for what they've created, and buy digitals if you have a computer. You can go get old books and or free books, at a yard sale or at a library sale. And that does require ripping or cutting out the images, though, as does the magazines. Well, I guess the digitals do too. But you can also buy ready-made die cuts, probably from Amazon for sure, and definitely in the craft store. If you don't want to, cut things or rip things or die cut things yourself. So here I'm showing you, I've got some painty papers, where you can clean your brush off or your tools off, that sort of thing. And I like the color of it. That's what I'm showing you here. I like that it's green. And what I want to do is create some continuity and like for your eye to travel from the top corner through the page down through the right corner, just so the green sort of carries through and it's easy on the eye and you don't really even notice it, but it feels good when you look at the page when it's done. And maybe if you're like me, stare at it for a while and it relaxes you. That's the point of decorating a journal for me, is not only the creation of it during is pleasure, but it's really relaxing later when I use it because it's pleasurable to me, to my eyes. So choose whatever lights you up and what you like. So here's my little mini Sizzix machine, and you kind of lock it down here. But that doesn't always work for me, and I don't think it's the machine. I think it's probably my table and my floor might be unlevel. I live in a very old home. It's 200/300 years old. So I don't want to fault the machine when it kind of rocks here in a second. But anyways, that lever is supposed to suck it down to the table, and it does normally. And then it doesn't move around. That's the purpose. And you put your material down, which is called your substrate. Then you put your die down with the sharp part facing down. And then you put that other little plate on top. And kind of like a slide, you put in a microscope. Do you remember that in school? It reminded me of that, like a little slide, specimen slide. The things we remember from childhood. But anyway, and you run it through and it cuts out decorative papers that you now have what's called a die cut. You can also just, like I said, buy ready-made die cuts. But I get a kick out of doing this. I get a kick out of making my own, and it's fun for me. I go ahead and I do the second one here. And that little thing was a poker tool, Tim Holtz Polke tool. And it pokes out the little fine pieces of paper and pops the, piece of paper out. And then I glue them down to the top left corner and the bottom right to make the green have a continuous flow through the page. And this is just something I like to do, but I always like to say, do you. If you like just, lots of colors and bright colors and just things that make you happy, Don't worry about cohesion and making it match and all that. That's just my style. But there's nothing, wrong with just having fun and doing whatever makes you happy. I can't stress that enough. So here I had those 2 pieces of scrap paper I showed in the beginning, and all I did was glue them together. I didn't even use junk mail in between. This does create a more flimsy journaling card, if you will, or tag, but I didn't want to create too much bulk in my journal, so I just opted to do that this time around. Other times I love having ultra thick, heavy weight. I can't resist like a heavy weight for some reason. So I have some sentiments of words that I've just made of myself and put on my computer and printed them out. And I tear them from time to time and use them as inspirational words for myself. And so I used those there. And then here I had some labels that I was sort of choosing, and I ended up using one that sort of had some sticks on the edge, and I chose this because it added to the woodland feel and look of the overall design of the page. And I put it down, and then I put another one of those words that says moonflowers. I absolutely love those white roses. They make me so relaxed when I look at them. And so now I have a really large journaling tag. And here I'm just putting a little bit of glue on the edge of this. This was a string that I got on a gift bag, and I cut it off because I wanted to use it, in junk journaling. And it was fraying pretty badly, and I love fraying, but it was going to fray down to like nothing. So I'm testing it out and putting a little glue on the ends, and I'm going to see if that stops it from fraying. I'm going to check that out. Here I just ripped a little piece of my page because there was a little person there walking in the snow, and I wanted to see her. And so I exposed her. And so here's the card, the tag that I made in the little floating pocket, and if I don't end up wanting to put it there, I can move it around because I don't want to hide that fox on that book page. I love him. Here's my other little unconventional journaling tag, the hidden paper clip, plenty of space to write on it, and plenty of space to write on the paper here in the actual journal itself, but still decorated to the point where it just gives me so much inspiration when I sit down to write my feelings. Also, if you're not into doing that, you can just certainly keep your memories. Write down what you did today, or write what you did for the month if it's too much to do daily. Sadly, this deer didn't make it into the cut this time around, but he will and she will soon. And here it is. Thank you for crafting along with me. Thank you so much. And if you like this, please share and like and subscribe if you like it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Have a lovely day. Bye.